All right. Well, good morning and welcome to Radio K Air. I have the privilege to talk to Lou Rosado with AFP Group. A pretty interesting new model they've got with financial planning, and I wanted to highlight what he does because it is a different model and a different fee structure than most companies offer, the Edward Jones, Morgan Stanley's, Merrill Lynch's of the world. So I wanted to him explain to how he does that, ultimately really how they make money and how they propose for you to make money. This is Meet the Merchant. We are with Radio K Air here in downtown Humble. Again, Lou Rosado. Met him through a friend of the station. He asked, hey, I'd love to come on and talk and highlight what their business does. So we're proud to have him in our group and proud to have him in the room. So welcome, Lou.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And, I've heard of the flat fee financial a little bit, and I purposely in our introduction, I didn't ask the questions because in my opinion, I wanted to go into this a little blind. So you could explain to me the same way so I understand. Sometimes I know enough about a company where I don't ask the right questions. And in this case, I didn't want to ask you at all because I wanted you to explain it to me in a way I could understand. And hopefully people that are listening through this can understand the difference between the way you structure your fees, the way you structure your clients, their relationships, and how those work. So, Lou, if you would, let's start off with kind of the family, friends. Who are you? Where do you live? How do you impact our community? Where are you in our wonderful environment?
Yeah, recent transplant from New Jersey. My wife and I moved here. We're coming up on 3 months now. We live in Spring.
You didn't see the sign on the way down that said, "Hey, if you're coming to Texas, we're full."
Yeah, I did not. I heard about it. I heard about it.
All right.
Yeah. No, I got to tell you. So I lived here part-time for 1 year.
Okay.
When it looked like this was going to be a thing, I came down a year in advance. My wife of 20, she's going to kill me, 23 years we've been married now.
If we need to edit that later, we can.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it might save a day, right? So we've been together 23 years now. My son's 22, my daughter's 18, and my wife stayed back home in New Jersey for the 1 year while I moved down here. Just learn the lay of the land, start networking, start building my book of business, and then go from there. And then went back home and sold the house, and now we're here for good. My son's doing his teaching thing, and my daughter's a freshman in college.
So what made you the decision to move to our wonderful community? We know why we're here.
Yeah.
Right? We know why we're not leaving, but what made you choose Northeast Houston?
Yeah, God had so many parts in motion. We decided years ago New Jersey wasn't it for us. When, don't know, how, where, none of that. But we saw the window, right when my son was done college and my daughter finishing up high school, getting ready for college. It was a good opportunity for us then, and we saw it and started working on it 2-3 years ago. I had just wrapped up college myself, and that's when the AFP group kind of came around and offered me an opportunity here. And we just kind of worked our way through it. We looked at a map. We're like Virginia and then the Carolinas and working all the way down and ended up in, what about Texas? I'm like, man, might not be a bad idea. Just as things started to happen with the AFP group. And initially I was just going to be a financial advisor. And I said, well, listen, if you're going to move down here, we've got an opportunity for you, as VP of the firm. And it was, he laid everything out. So we just rolled with it.
Hey, I like it. Yeah. Texas, it's different than the Northeast. It's different from California.
Understatement.
We all travel that way, but we're glad to come home, right? So I'm good in the other parts of the country for usually 4 days, and then I'm pretty done. And some of the attitudes and changes in culture, irk me a bit and irk most Texans a bit, but we enjoy their culture too. So, all right on. So welcome to Texas first off, and glad to have you, and glad you.
So warm here. It's so well, and figuratively and literally, But I love it here.
Yeah, right on. All right, so tell me a little bit about AFP Group. I not necessarily, hey, we've been in business for 20 years, or we've done this, we've done that. Really, who saw a vision, right? Who was that person? What vision did they hope to grab and and inspire people like you to join? And then ultimately, what did you see in AFP that brought you to their doorstep and said, "Hey, look, this sounds like a great adventure"?
Yeah, access to financial literacy is really what the firm is about. The owner, Quadre Williams, his wife Chantel Williams, they're just, he goes by Q, and Q and I go back almost 20 years now. And we both come from very poor backgrounds, so to have access to financial literacy was not even an option for us. So when he got into this position, he bought the firm, I believe 4 or 5 years ago. That was his number one priority. What can I do and what can I create to where I could take this theoretically back home? Ironically enough, at that same point in time, I was looking for a financial advisor, and he was still in the midst of building the firm. And I couldn't find one because I didn't have significant means. I made good money, but I also built a lifestyle that was commensurate with that salary, right?
Understood.
So not having a ton of disposable income at the end of the month, the big boys of the world wouldn't give me the time of day. Go to a bank, open up an IRA, and you're fine. So I decided, all right, well, I need to learn more. So I'm going to go to college, and I did at 41. Got my associates and my bachelor's in 2 years. I got my state licensing for life insurance, passed my essentials exams, got my Series 7 license, and now it's like, okay, so now if you don't want to teach people like me, I'm going to need you do me one small favor and just take a step to the left for me, please, so I can go and find people like me that want to learn about financial literacy.
So when you say access, you're saying Q and AFP, their goal was to educate right, people in your position that are supporting people that need the financial advice, and also the clientele and the customers in that group. Is that correct?
For sure. It's easy, and we have plenty of doctors and lawyers, especially from the medical center. So the higher net worth clients, investment management and wealth management, estate planning, that's a layup, right? It's a language that they already speak. But to be able to provide access to those that don't know what they don't know, right? That's different. And that's where the flat fee comes into play.
Okay, so before we start talking about how you structure the fees, because to me, I'm even confused about how my financial planner that I've had for years, how I pay that guy. I don't know. It's there.
Very normal, very common, for sure.
I can understand. I probably pay him a good amount of money for that service, but he's good at what he does, and I trust him in what he does. So it's part of the game. But before we get into the fee structure on the clientele with AFP, it seems like you are trying to aspire to do the same thing that Radio Care is trying to do. So what we're really trying to do is not give people opinions one way or the other, whether it's political or whether it's maybe somebody like you that comes by and does an interview. We're not saying, hey, go use this guy. What we are saying is, hey, this is a good reference point for you, a good referral. Talk to them, see if that's right. Same thing with the political world, right? So we don't want to say, hey, we want you to put Trump blinders on, or hey, we want you to go hug a tree. We're not trying to go one way or the other. What we are saying is, hey, the vote coming up is important. Educate yourself on what it is, and we're trying to put people in front of them so they can make the right decision for them and their homes. And I hope AFP, it sounds like you kind of are in the same boat where, hey, sometimes it's about educating clients or potential clients, and sometimes they're not the right client for you. Or maybe, hey, look, we need to examine more about what you're trying to accomplish in order to get, the end goal result. So have you had scenarios recently to where you've taken a client and you said, hey, look, you really need the education piece, so let's spend several hours together and you can understand the basic concepts of what I'm trying to accomplish for you? And then at that point, you typically win them over, right? And that happens to us a lot, right? And that happens in most industries. Once they know, love, and trust you, they're obviously more willing to do business with you. So do you have any examples like that recently? And they probably don't want their names used, but...
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, you've got me cheesing from ear to ear, because that's exactly, our process is an educational one. It's important that You don't just, here, Lou, here's my money, do what you do, right? I need you to be able to make informed decisions and educated decisions. And the only way I can do that is if I teach you. So the process is one of a series of Zooms. We'll have one and we're just going to talk about debt, your debt, good debt versus bad debt, right? And then we'll have another one and we'll break down all the different types of life insurance. We're not buying anything right now. We're not committing to anything. I just need you to understand how each of them works. And do the same for investments and estate planning and tax planning, all the way through, upwards of 15 meetings. At which point, then is when I like to say we start pushing buttons and pulling levers. We'll go ahead and we'll create your full financial plan. Whatever policies we want to buy, whatever investments you want to make, that's when we start doing everything. Because by that point, now you understand how things work and you're telling me what you want.
Yeah.
Right. To your point about essentially stopping a client and saying, we've got to educate you a little bit more. Really not the case, because we paint that picture coming into it. This is the process. Okay. Right. And we set the table wherein we need you to want to learn because we want to teach. Yep. So we do have clients that, hey, I'm rolling over a 401, take that and put it into an IRA. Great. We'll have a conversation for suitability, see how risky, you want to be with things, set your IRA off and running. But with regards to a full comprehensive financial plan, I need that attachment. It's a very intimate, relationship. I like to tell my clients it's your doctor, your significant other, and then myself. Yeah. I need to know things about you so I know what I'm working for.
All right. So going to the next phase of this. So you've got a client, all right, or a potential client at this point. You've gone through a brief education of high level information of, obviously me, right, even me, have money out there with groups, but I don't want to know every detail. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think you understand the difference what I'm getting
to.
Yeah. Right. We pay you for that knowledge in a lot of cases. Right. I do kind of understand high level. All right. What are we doing and why did this impact me? Right. And I think in generally speaking, the early education piece, we're calling it, mm-hmm. We'll teach those clients those basic things. So now let's get into the fee structure because, I don't want to name a bunch of companies, but those companies all have fees that are structured by percentage. Yes. Some are only percentage of growth. Some of them are percentage based on what type of funds or, where you are and what type of plans and all those things. So tell me, generally speaking, some of the big names out there compared to what you guys and how your fee is structured.
We can totally and completely customize what service best applies to you, right? So we've got two different plans. We've got what we call the Tell Me, and we've got what we call the Teach Me. The Teach Me is that step by step. The Tell Me is give me the broad overview of things. We're able to speak the same language. Now, listen, I've got work to do. Do what you do, right? So to that point, we can customize. And the same when it comes to, we have the ability to charge a commission. The industry standard is 1% on average.
Okay.
Right. We can tweak that as needed as an independent broker. Right. But the flat fee just kind of clears things up. Right. There's no hidden commissions. There's no hidden fees. We see where you are, see where you want to go, put a price tag on it, and go to work.
Okay. We're done. Right on. So Q and AFP, as they were developing this fee structure, what advantages did they see to planning it out that way, right? Because if the percentage is 1%, right, my guess is y'all are going to be in that 0.8 to 1.2, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys are all going to be in the same ballpark. Yes. It'd be my gut. But what advantages to that fee structure are there? I mean, at what point does you or your client, are they able to leverage that fee structure against somebody else?
Yeah, that's the beauty of being an independent, right? Like we can literally huddle up and come up with a new policy, and as long as it's compliant, we can go with it, right? We don't have to run anything through the higher ups. We are the higher ups as CFO, CEO, and VP of the firm. So if you come in scenario, right, which has happened many a time. You got a perfect portfolio, and your guy's making you money. You just don't have that connection that you would like, and sometimes you can't get hold of them. You know, I like to say our greatest ability is our availability. You have my direct phone number, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, perfect portfolio. You're paying 1%, charge you 0.8, done,
Yep.
done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you have the ability to
That latitude, yeah.
yeah, be able to be more flexible in the fee structure whenever you say, hey, look, you know, I see what you're paying, and my services do cost because they are a value, but I'm able to beat this guy out because what you're needing isn't going to occupy X number of time or X number of resources.
Correct.
And you don't have, my guess is AFP because I haven't seen their commercials in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. My
Probably
guess is
won't, right?
you don't have that that overhead. Right. A lot of these guys have significant amount of overhead. So every time I see a
Yeah.
commercial, I look at it and I'm like, man, that cost them a lot of money, which in turn costs our
Somebody's
customers
gonna have to pay for that, right?
at some point, right?
Yes.
So I think a lot of these models are going back to a little more grassroots and is that commercial worth your time? So with that being said, you know, how are you? How is Lou? How is AFP? How is the team? How are you guys working towards adding clientele? You know, what's your main marketing strategies?
Yeah, well, there's nothing at all like word of mouth,
Okay.
right? And referrals is our number one. I can't tell you how many times I've get an appointment and I talk to my admin, who is this? Oh, so and so referred her. Okay, great. You know, so it kind of steers us in a certain direction, right? That's number one first and foremost, and that's most genuine.
Yeah.
Right, so
Agreed.
it's genuine. So while there may be the occasional Facebook post that's very general and here and there, it's things like this that help us kind of get out, especially in local communities. We are licensed in all 50, and with me being from New Jersey, the vast majority of my clientele is from there, and I'm starting to expand over here now. But yeah, word of mouth is just first and foremost with us.
Yeah, the you know what I tell people a lot is you may have a marketing strategy that has, like we were talking about, the commercials, right? The cool logos, the trendy brands, the nice truck with all the wrap on it. You know, all those things are branding, imaging, and really marketing as a whole. But what a lot of companies forget is people do business with people, right? And
That's
you
it.
and your business especially, right? Yours is
Your money, right? Yeah, for sure.
There's a couple of them: doctors, attorneys. They're doing business with a person.
Yes.
They really could care less about what name is behind them. But I mean, even let's say the HVAC guy, the guy that does air conditioning. The truth of the matter is, you may have a broken air conditioning. The first guy that gets there, right, is not doesn't represent himself and his company well. A lot of people will push him aside and be like, man, I don't trust you. I don't know you. I don't respect you. You're not coming to my house.
Right.
Well, I think that your marketing strategy is more of, hey, look, I'm pulling the layers back, right? Let's start from the end. I have a client that I already prove I do a good job for. Hopefully they're able to refer me. Or
That's it.
I have somebody in, our community that met me over tacos or, whatever, and then you're able to get them, if they're not become your client, I've got a buddy that's going through this transition, right? I've got these things. So, all right. So speaking of those, when is the most opportune time for someone to consider taking on a financial planner? Because corporate America, right? We've got 401ks,
Yes.
all right? We've got this thing out here that's managed from these major money market groups,
Yes.
right? And sometimes we go through transitions, and I know, I'm leading the question here a little bit, but tell me times where you really need to strongly consider, hey, I need to get some advice here, because I don't think people, will go through these dramatic changes and consider that in their lives.
Yeah, well, some of the best times to borrow money is when you don't need it, right? Because it's always easy to give it back, right? But it's hard to borrow when you do need it sometimes, right? So with regards to seeking out a financial advisor, I always explain, pick up the can, right? Because one day you're going to check into life insurance, and one day you're going to start that college fund, and one day you're going to open up an IRA. And then you turn around that kid's 12 years old. They're going to, they're getting ready already, talking about high school. That's 12 years ago that you could have started that college fund, and you've lost all that time. Health may become an issue, and now you're uninsurable. Now what? Right? All the time that you're losing in the market when it comes to an IRA. So I don't like to say it's a free conversation, because it will cost you about an hour of your time.
Yeah.
Right. But have the conversation. I can't tell you how many times a potential client will say, well, I've got some things I need to get squared away first. Okay, so you want to get ready. You don't even know how much we cost. You don't even know what we do, how we do it. What if I can help you with that which you're trying to get squared away before we get started, right? If you're talking about credit card debt management is one thing that we do. What if I could shave a whole year and a half off of your current plan, right? So let's have that conversation. Worst case scenario, now you know what to plan for. And I can steer you in a direction that'll get you there faster, maybe. Who knows? But let's have that conversation.
So in this, I know, because I've got a lot of friends that are financial advisors, and one of the things they always say is, hey, if you have a dramatic change in your life, like
Yes.
you change industries, you change companies you're working for, they're going to have a 401k that is yours. You own it. Part of it may or may not be vested depending on time, all those things of what they contributed to it. But those transition times, it's, in my opinion, extremely important to go, hey, let me find someone like AFP. Let me find one of my friends that I know, love, and trust that is a financial planner to go, hey, man, what do I do with this, right? And more times than not, they're like, just, what is it? Send me the email, send me the documentation.
Yes.
Here's where we're putting it, and here's why. All right, cool. Like me, I'm the dummy in the room going, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I have that same conversation with my financial planners, is me and him are the same age. We come from the same background, went to the same college, all those things. We had kids at the same time. Very aligned as far as in our life and where we're retiring. So I told him early in our conversations, hey, buddy, I know where you live, and anywhere you put your funds, mine better closely mirror it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I didn't want to come across as, hey, man, I don't want you putting my money in some experimental junk that's going to lose a fortune, and then you're sitting there in a happy place, right?
Yeah.
So literally, me and have an agreement, if he moves his money and funds, mine.
I'm coming with.
Yeah. Mine just follows, so I know we've got the right amount. Do you have scenarios like that to where you're like, and I'm teeing you up for, there's time in your lives where you want to be less and more aggressive, right?
Yes.
But there's also times where you have some of the best clients are, typically people around your age, because they have the same goals, timeline that you do. So you want to talk any about that?
Yeah, it's always an interesting thing for me in particular, because I'm aware of the fact that I look a little bit younger than I actually am. I'm pushing 50, right? And I'll have these conversations, and I kind of get the look like, what do you know about what you're talking about? What are you, 30? About to be 47. My son's 23. So that changes things,
Yeah.
When to that respect. But I very much enjoy the fact that, especially me, because I use that to my advantage, long story short, right? Because I look young. My youngest client was 23, and that's his younger brother. He's 20 years old. Right? So think of where you'd be if at 20 you had an IRA, you had a small life insurance policy, you had a budget, you had a structured savings, you knew exactly where you were going to move and when you're going to move out of mom's house. You know what I mean? All of that at 20, like where would you be right now? Right? So being able to be that agile is fun, honestly, and then sit down. I had a friend of mine who hit a significant amount in lottery. We had a conversation, right? We went to high school together, very similar, right? So came up in the same neighborhood, right? Similar backgrounds, the whole 9 yards. And then to get the phone call from the company that I left when I had my 9 to 5 in the corporate world, 9 to 5, quote unquote, right? In the corporate world, and get the phone call, hey, I'm retiring. What do I do with this 401 thing? Like, okay, that's fun. That's so much fun. Let's sit down and let's start painting some pictures, man, and see what retirement
It sounds
looks like.
like AFP, you guys are looking for clients like every other business in the world. You're looking for people to help them with their investments, right? Help educate. But I think AFP, since y'all are less of the structured environment as other financial the big boys of the world, I think that y'all have a unique opportunity for clients where maybe the bigger guys don't have interest in certain individuals,
Yes.
right? And in your world, hey, you're not looking at the today. It's more of the let's educate this person on what they are and what they can become as a client, or what what referral partnerships we can get out of it, and then not bury them in fees, right? So
Yes.
it's great to be 20 years old, but a lot of those guys don't have income, but at least it gets them down a path, right?
And that's the objective, right? Like if we get started now at 20, 25, there's a very good chance you can retire, with 7 figures in your investments simply by putting away X amount per week. And you blink and that 20-year-old is going to be 45, married with a couple of kids, right? So and that's how it starts. That's where it starts for me. I love those opportunities, as well as the other ones. I'm 45, Lou. I never really did anything with my 401. How do I start? It's not too late for you either. It's not too late for you either.
So we talked a little bit about your marketing strategy, and you talked about word of mouth.
Yes.
So are you there's a lot of the listeners in our programs are part of the BNI groups of the world, the Chamber
Yes.
of Commerce groups of the world, and that's really how me and Bob know each other is through Chamber of Commerce, and how a lot of our hosts interact with us and became part of this group. Are there anything you're participating in currently that people can find you at, or?
Yeah, I'm actually the director of membership for the Houston Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, perfect.
Very active in the veteran community. We are.
Y'all had a big event.
The expo at the GRB a few weeks ago.
Yes. I remember hearing about that.
Yes, that was huge in a myriad of ways. For it to only be our second annual expo and to fill at the GRB, that was huge.
Yeah,
we had almost
I
200
saw
businesses
that,
in there.
Yeah, I saw that and made sure one of my veteran friends were aware of it, and he's like, "Yes, I know this is going on." It's like, "You've done it." I'm like, "All right, buddy, got it." Perfect. And so that's a great, meaningful chamber, right? They have
Yes.
other desires and other support they give, which, thank everything for our veterans, because
For
it's
sure. Amen.
All right. So me and you were talking about AFP before we started, and one of the things you wanted to make sure we knew is other business offerings that you guys have for support.
Yeah, so I actually own a virtual tax and bookkeeping business, right? My grandfather always raised me, and he always told me that real man knows what he can and can't do, right? So I don't do taxes. I'm not a CPA, right? I'm not a bookkeeper, and that is naturally a part of comprehensive financial planning. If you don't have that, well, then I'll find that for you. And that's one of the services that we provide. I'll find whatever it is that you need. So it just made sense for me to open up my own LLC and create my own network of tax preppers and bookkeepers. If you don't have, now we have a source for you.
Is this for the personal side, or is this for
Personal
the business?
and business?
Okay.
Personal and business. And that has continued to expand. It's altruist taxes and more. And
Repeat that one more time.
altruist taxes.
Altruist tax.
Altruist taxes. Yes.
Altruist
Yes.
tax. Okay, I was misunderstanding. I'm glad I asked again.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's continuing to organically expand to include other services, i.e., we've got a virtual notary on board now. Daniel Langua, who you had on here a short time ago, his credit card processing services are now available on my website. Schoolie Mitchell, if you're not familiar with Schoolie Mitchell, the services that they provide for small businesses, and on and on. And I'm continuing to add other services just to provide more value. Legal Shield is now available on my website.
Okay.
Right, all of these services that can provide more value and more access to my clients.
Yeah, right on. Perfecto. So again, it's altruist
Yes,
tax in
ALTRUIST,
So we
altruisttaxes.com.
understood it. Perfect. All right. So, all right, Lou from AFP. My biggest concern. I wouldn't say concern, but what I want to make sure we highlight the most about what you do, what your family does, how you impact our community is more your community give back.
Yes.
So, you know, Radio K-Air does a great deal of give back to our community. We did a great event this weekend through H-Town Dream Center. We also help. Me and Bob have been on the board of the Chamber of Commerce with EMC. There's a lot of ways we give our time and money to our community to help this community continue to flourish. We're blessed to live in a wonderful
Amen.
community, and we've got to continue to fight for it. And the only way to do that is to give some of your time and your money back to develop it. So what is AFP doing? What are you doing? What is your family doing to help support the community for time to come?
Yeah, twofold. One is through the Veterans Chamber
Okay.
events that we host throughout the city, and we're going to continue to do support the veteran economy, right, and veteran-owned businesses. As for the AFP group, I'd mentioned that Q and I go back almost 20 years. We met each other at a Boys and Girls Club in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And we've continued to do a myriad of community service projects together, up to, ironically